So hey guys, I'm Alex. I have my own business on top of this, which is focused on a lot of coaching. I work with powerlifters, bodybuilders, and a lot of first responders in terms of getting them to wherever they want to be. I've been in the gym myself for 24 years, and powerlifting, I competed when I was 17 in a few competitions, set world records. I've degree in biology, personal trainer, nutrition coach. Like, I've been doing this stuff a really long time, and I've learned a lot. And even before working here with EmpowerU, my first ever job was all through high school, working with Special Olympics and throughout the entire year too. Like, even waking up every Saturday morning and working with Special Olympians on every Saturday while I'm in high school. So I've been in the space in terms of both the adaptive and the actual powerlifting scenes for a long time. So one of the things that I wanted to do was talk about spotting, because one of the biggest things that gets kind of thrown by the wayside because it's not very cool is how to actually safely spot. And you'll see it all the time in every gym that you go to. Like, how many times have you gone and you see some kids benching and a kid is trying to struggle. He's got like 2 plates on each side. He's strong enough for one of them. He's going like this, and his buddy has one hand in his pocket, the other hand on the other side of the rack and everything, just watching him struggle and be like, oh, I should do something. Okay. And then he's like, all right, go. And he's like 2 fingers, like, come on, go, go, go. Like, that's just stupid. Don't do that. Especially with a lot of the populations that we work with, you really need to be hands-on and really get in there. And don't be afraid to be extremely close, because that proximity is going to provide safety. And it's also going to provide security, not just physically, but also mentally. Just this last week, I had one of the athletes in the Special Olympics powerlifting Thursday night program who, for some reason, when he was squatting, he was only going down to here. And in order to hit powerlifting legal depth, you have to go at minimum to here. And he normally goes way below that. So I'm asking him, like, why? He's like, oh, I just don't feel secure. And I was like, oh, would you like me to spot you? Because somebody else was spotting him at that point, and they were more of the hands-off style. And he said yes. And I said, okay. And because I knew exactly what I had to do, because he knows how I spot. So when I got in there, I'm behind him. I'm throwing my arms forward. He can physically see my hands. He knows that he's actually safe and secured and that I can catch him. So the next set he does, I'm like, you can just do 1 rep, just hit dead. He's like, okay. He goes down, dunks it all the way down, and he has to do it for 5 reps. So that is something you need to take in mind, that even if you're uncomfortable being close with some of your clients, that's actually irrelevant, because it's about safety. You can also do a lot of things to prevent spotting issues or prevent potential problems if an athlete's going to, say, fall. One of the biggest things that you'll see, and we do this all the time, are box squats. And the way that the box squats are generally done is the exact way that we were doing it earlier, where you have your box and it's set square. So you go like this and you sit down this way. But if you look at this, the amount of space that I have clearance in the middle here is almost nothing. I am able to actually have part of like the meat of my legs be pushed back into here because I have no space. If I were to, say, come down improperly and go like this, I can miss and fall forward. So there are simple things you can do, like rotate the box a little bit. Now when you are having your client do their box squat, they go like this. Look at how much extra space is here. There is absolutely no way that they can physically go forward like this unless they purposely jump forward. So you can set yourself up into scenarios where you can actually prevent a spotting issue by making it not needed at all. So there's a lot of strategy that goes into lifting that I talk a lot about, because it's, for one, interesting, but for two, really important and underrated. So if you can do things like set up a box squat so there's a bunch of extra space for safety, do it. Small little things like making sure shoes are actually tied. Like, that sounds kind of silly, but we are forgetful ourselves. Like, I've had people be like, oh, hey, your shoe's untied. And I'm supposed to be the coach. So small things like that are going to go a long way when it comes to spotting. Now, there are different types of lifts and different types of weights. Dumbbells, barbells, trap bars, any kind of specialty bar, each one of them has their own little tip or trick around them for actual spotting, but the universal thing is stay close. So now what I'm gonna do is steal our illustrious leader, Joe. All right, and we're going to go ahead and look at a few specific exercises. Now, one of the most common things is to have an incline bench of some variety in the programming. So, let's look at it.
Everybody, it's gonna get heavy.
Yeah, I got your max weight right here.
Thank you.
So, let's take out a couple different ways that we could have Joe do this. So Joe, come back, and I'm spotting him. Here's one way I could spot. All right, Joe, do your lifts. I'm completely off balance. If he needs something right away, I'm taking my hands off and I'm gonna fall. There's no way I can get there and actually be supportive. So if I'm gonna be spotting him, I'm gonna be like this. I'm as far forward as the bench will allow me, and I'm right here. And then what you have to do is think about what is the point that you can touch that's going to be the least impactful upon the balance of the person that you are lifting with. So you can just rest those down for a second. Because there's one important thing about dumbbells, and that is that they are a very unstable thing to move around. They are the most unstable that you will reliably use. There are other things that are going to be more, okay, we get the point. You can put that down now. There are others that are more unstable, but reliably, constantly used, dumbbells are the king. So when you are having someone lift with an unstable system, you have to realize that if you impart your forces into that layer of instability, you're making it less stable because you are now adding in an outside force while they're struggling trying to figure out what is going on. So, Joe, go ahead, do another lift. You can look at a few different options that we can do. The classic one you will see is going by the elbows here. So if Joe comes down and I'm pushing this way, if Joe, for some reason, loses leverage and the dumbbell starts to come backwards, I can't do anything about that because I'm here. All I'm gonna do is make it even worse because I'm pushing up. I'm forcing that elbow up while the dumbbell forces everything back here, and your shoulder could end up in a really bad situation. So I would say do not do that. Next option is you can go ahead and do this, and if it's light enough weight, you're strong enough, and you're tall enough, you could theoretically take all of the issues out by grabbing the dumbbells themselves. These are light dumbbells. I can go ahead and just do this. So with some of our clients, that actually may be a viable option and the fastest one to get the weights out of their hands. Now, let's take a look at some of the guys that I work with in powerlifting. One of them benches 270 pounds. So if he's doing dumbbell benching, we're talking about handling 80-pound dumbbells minimum. I am not plucking 80-pound dumbbells out of his hands. In that case, my recommendation is don't spot him. Seriously, there is sometimes the safest spot is to not spot because you're just gonna end up adding more instability, more danger, and more potential hurt for them and for you. So keep that in mind with some of these scenarios. Now, here's the happy medium. So here are your heavy dumbbells. You can go ahead, if you're not strong enough to grab the dumbbells themselves, you want to get as close to the weight as possible so you stabilize it and you control what the implement is. And that means grabbing wrists. So if you grab the wrists here, he now cannot do that same fall back thing because you're in the way. And as long as you can trust your client to hold on to those dumbbells, you're going to be in a much better spot here. Okay?
All right, and can I jump in quick?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's a really good point, and like Alex said, he has the power lifter, benches 270, might get on there 80, 90, even 100-pound dumbbells. He doesn't spot them. The person comes in, they already know what they're doing, they've had years of practice. Lifting heavy weight like that is not something that you just do overnight, right, or even in a few weeks in a session. And Alex knows that, right? He knows that the person he works with can dismount appropriately, so if they have to throw the weights to the side or whatever they have to do to be safe, they know how to do that. If we have a person that does lift heavy, we don't feel comfortable spotting something like the very unstable dumbbell, right? We can take those to other exercises, right? Like the bench press using a barbell or using a cable system, right? There's plenty of things in the gym itself that you can use to help with that lift if you don't feel comfortable or confident because the person wants to rock 90-pound dumbbells on a bench press.
Yeah, so let's actually take that. You can just plop those down. And I'm gonna grab a barbell now. So we're gonna take the exact same exercise and we're gonna give Joe a barbell. And now, this is when the only correct way to actually spot is by grabbing the weight itself. So if he is now benching over here, then I'm gonna go ahead and the only way I'm gonna help is by grabbing the bar itself here. Now you'll notice with an incline and the way this is set up, I'm really far away. So you gotta think about then is perhaps going on a flat. So I'll show you the difference of flat versus there.
Right? Like if you have to spot that person or if they're going to drop that weight and you kind of have to catch it quickly and they're far away from you on an incline press, that weight's at all heavy. You know, as that weight moves away from the body and it's being lifted and you have to try to catch it out here, it maximizes the amount of force that's being put on that weight, right? So the amount of force on your low back is going to jack up to it, right?
Yep. So actually on that note, there's a drill that I'll actually do when I'm teaching someone how to deadlift. A deadlift, the whole point is to have that bar close and against your shins. So what I'll do to make that exact same point, I'll say, okay, go to that middle point just below your knee. Keep that bar against your shins and feel how you can stay here forever. But now push it farther out. All of a sudden, it starts to get pretty heavy. By the way, I can deadlift over 500 pounds. I can barely hold a 45-pound barbell a foot in front of my knees. That's the difference that leverage makes, literally 450 plus pounds difference, okay? Just from 1 foot of being farther away from your center of gravity. So let's apply that now to spotting a bench. Am I gonna be back here? No. I'm all the way up here. I've even stepped to the left of the bench here, so I am right in his face. But look at how close I can be now. So I'm here, and I can go ahead and catch that at any point. Additionally, I'm doing an over-under thing. One of the things about a barbell and why barbells are so great and sometimes easier to lift with than other things is because of this roll. The fact that the bar itself can stay stable and the outer part here can twist. However, that means the bar also has a tendency to be able to roll out of your hand easier while the weights stay stable. So in order to counteract that ability for it to roll out of your hands, you can do an over-under grip. And so you grab this way. Now, the bar cannot roll no matter what. You have all of the control that you need this way. So if Joe goes, and then all of a sudden he's lifting it, it's halfway up, and then it starts to fall down, I'm gonna be right here, and I can go ahead and be here, but also look at how far over him I am. So for those over there, I am literally like this. I'm keeping as close to myself as I can. I have a staggered stance, and I'm making sure that when I'm lifting this bar, it's going to be as close to my center of gravity as possible. Because keep in mind, if I'm pulling somebody's barbell off of them, and they're benching in the mid 200s or 300s or 400s, I'm gonna wanna make sure that that leverage is not gonna bust my back open. I wanna keep myself intact and keep myself safe. There is more risk to an improper spotter than there is to the lifter themselves. So keep yourself safe with all of this. Now let's switch gears and go back to a squat. So Joe, stand up, let's get this bench out of the way. Okay. So I was saying before how you want to stay close to someone when they squat. So Joe, we're gonna get nice and personal over here. All right, this is what I mean when I stay close. Stand up over here, do a couple of just body weight squats. So if he is here, I'm not gonna do the same thing where I'm back here and he starts to struggle and then I run in. No, I'm going to actually make sure that my stance is wider than his. He squats down and I'm right here. Because there's another thing that you got to think about when you're doing this. If we are having the goal being as close to the person as possible when we are spotting, you have to think what you are grabbing them with if they were to fall. And the tricky thing is that most people think the answer are hands. If someone's going to be squatting, well, I'm going to grab them with my hands. No, your hands are weak, they're floppy. What you want to do is use your elbows. Your elbows are going to be much more secure and they can do a hell of a lot more than your hands can. So Joe, go ahead, squat down. So now, Okay, so here, this way. Okay, so when I'm doing this, this is how close I'm going to be. And so that way, go down here, I can go ahead and catch like this. So if he falls forward, I'm catching him with my entire arms. So squat all the way down and now stay down. So if he's here and he can't pop up, I'm like this. Look at how close I am. Look at the center of gravity. You see how my elbows are basically under his armpits? So from here, I stabilize us both. I'm in a strong position. We can go ahead and now come up slowly. You don't want to jerk a person if you are saving them in a lift. You want it to be a nice, slow, smooth, predictable movement. Because if you go hoo-hoo, then if you're off at all, you're just going to propel both of you into a terrible situation. So instead, what you want to do is be balanced, cool. You first steady, okay, stand up. It's slower than you think. And that slowness gives you stability, safety, and it makes sure that you are not going to be putting improper forces onto them. So there's a lot that goes into this, but again, it means you have to be close. But there's one other consideration when you are looking at a squat, and that is the height of you and the height of the person that you are helping out. Joe's a little bit taller than me, but I can still do that. So you enjoy your extra height, but Eddie, I'm gonna steal you for the next part. Eddie's a little bit taller than us both. Now, if he were to go ahead and fail a squat, I can pick him up, but only, yeah, but in a second. But I'd only be able to pick him up probably about 2/3 of the way up, which sometimes is enough. So you can go ahead, face Lori. And so go ahead, squat. So you'll see if I'm having to spot him, I can still be close. So go up and down a little bit. I can still be pretty close, but you can see that there's an immediate math problem here because I have to go ahead and get an under. So, so come down, Eddie. And so if I'm catching him, I'm going like this, cool. I can get him to there, but you can see this is the most I can do is into this spot here. So it's better, yes. So from here, you kind of have to do this weird little shrug thingy and everything to help out. It's not impossible, but it's not great. What is better in this case is to actually use 2 spotters and have 2 people on the sides of the barbell. Sometimes that's not possible when you are having a client and you're the only person spotting them. It's a very situational thing, but I want to put that into your head that unusually, sometimes the correct answer is no spotter or 2 spotters. Better yet, 3 spotters. You can have 3 spotters, 1 person covering their back, 1 person each side.
Socialization.
Mm-hmm. So theoretically, you get someone that's trying to lift heavy, then that can be the good way to do it. So thank you, appreciate that.
And you do have, like Eddie would have had, as he comes up to the top of that squat, he's going to produce the most force within that squat. Mm-hmm. So odds are, if he's getting stuck in the hole, like that bottom position, right, and Alex is going to lift to help him or assist him out of it, by the time Eddie gets up to that like 15% range that he has to get to finish the squat, he might have the drive in his legs at that point to get up that tall.
Yeah.
Again, we're not going to be, Alex does work with our power lifters, right? So he has to really be on his toes with all this stuff, and we should too if our people are lifting heavy. The idea here is to think more about these type of lifts if we can. With our people, know that we do have the resources here if we think that our clients want to go in that direction. Because I do think that it would open up new doors for a lot of our clients to get them into more powerlifting.
Yep.
Right? It's a good way to really progress their program.
Yeah, so when we think about, well, why would I have someone squat or delve in the first place? When you're trying to think about what we're really doing for our clients, is the short term actually doesn't even matter at all. What we're really trying to do is set them up for the long term. And potentially that means making sure that they can still walk around and move around when they're 70, 80 years old, or even later than that. And if you want to think about it that way, okay, what are the 2 biggest concerns in terms of someone's ability to be independent? Sarcopenia and muscle bone loss. So sarcopenia is the loss of muscle. That's going to be huge. If you want to be someone who's actually functional at a later age, then you need to have the strength to stand up on your own. If you need someone's help to stand up, your freedom is gone. If we're trying to make sure that someone's going to be alive also, you can look at some really startling statistics on what someone's life expectancy is after they fall and break their hip when they're at an old age. I think the average is about a year after that. That's how much that they may live. So if we want to set someone up to have a strong, functional, capable, independent life, then you need to do things to build bone density and strength in a practical setting. Squats, deadlifts are going to do so much for that because they also add axial load, which is a fancy word of just talking about the spinal compression when you are in a lift. So you want to make sure that if we can set the stage for our clients to be comfortable putting in some real effort, and there are ways to ease into it. You don't have to do a barbell deadlift, you do a trap bar deadlift. You can elevate platforms to have them lift higher. So maybe they're still only comfortable lifting from here to here, but guess what? You load 200 pounds here to here. That's gonna do some good bit of compression on the bones and force them to work really well within their own system. So there's a lot that goes into the thinking about the combination of spotting, heavy lifting, and the long-term effects and benefits of it.